So every time I share the settings I use on the PC with the LG C1, I have someone asking me, hey, what about the PS5, bro? Or what about the Xbox Series X? I do not have a console, but I explain the settings. So even if you have a different TV or a different system, you can still get something out of it and apply that and try it. So the problem with the auto HDR on the consoles is that I do not know what is the max CLL. So when you turn on auto HDR on the PS5, what is the game trying to do? We need to know that so we can apply the correct tone mapping to get the maximum peak brightness on the TV. And the second thing that I need to know is, how are the games looking? Do they look washed out or do they look perfect? Maybe they look perfect, but they don't look very bright, so the highlights are not popping, and maybe you have to use dynamic tone mapping. Okay, so I need to know that. If I don't know that, I cannot tell you what are the best options. Is the auto HDR from the settings from the consoles supporting the system level calibration? Maybe they are. They should support the system level calibration like they do on the PC, but maybe they are not supporting the system level calibration. So how can you know? Just go wild with the system level calibration. Turn that peak brightness all the way down and see how it looks, then turn it all the way up and see if you notice any difference. And if you don't notice any difference, then most likely the PS5 or the Xbox Series X don't support the system level calibration when you are using auto HDR. So how can you know that information? How can you know the max CLL of the game, which is what the games are trying to output? You would need to record the gameplay with an external capture card, with an Elgato capture card maybe. Capture gameplay, then open that video on a Windows 11 PC with a VCL player, then take a screenshot and then open that with the HDR WCG image viewer app. It's a lot of work, and most people don't have an external capture card unless they have a YouTube channel or they are streamers or something. So what you can do is you can always throw a rock and see how it looks. So what I would recommend you is turn on auto HDR on the console, for example on the PS5, because I know most people have a PS5. It's not, I'm not a fanboy or anything like that. I don't have a PS5, but I know most people have a PS5. The market share of the PS5 is bigger. So turn on auto HDR on the PS5, then play around with the HDR, with the system level calibration, and see if you see any difference. If you don't see any difference, okay, it doesn't support the system level calibration. Then take a look at the games and see if they look washed out. If they look perfect, so compare how the games look on SDR and with the auto HDR. And near black, they should look about the same. So open a horror game, something that's very dark, and compare how they look with the auto HDR and on SDR. And they should look the same near black. And if they don't, then the HDR probably has the black level raised. What can you do? Lower the black level or screen brightness to 46, or fine-tune dark areas -16. Why? Because if they look washed out, most likely the game is limited inside full HDR container. Okay, but if the game is not washed out, just open the game and try tone mapping off, and then go to the HDMI signaling override menu, step on select mode 111 3111, and change the mastering peak and the max CLL to 400. And that's going to be super bright for the highlights, but it might be clipping too much. Okay, so if you see that, you look at the sun or the light sources and you see that it is too bright, that you're losing details, then the max CLL of the game is actually higher than 400. Then try 540. and see if that's still clipping details. If it's still clipping, go higher, go to 700 and try like that. So it is difficult to just, nail the settings just by looking at the games. But if you don't have the opportunity to capture the gameplay and open that on the PC to get the max CLL, that's all you can do. And the black level race is something that you need to just realize by looking at it. So I might do a video to show you how black level race look like. I might do a video showing you how one time washed out looks like, so when the game is limited. And I might do a video showing you, in that same video, showing you how double washed out looks like. So basically when you open on the PC, you turn on HDR, you open a game on SDR, they are double washed out. So I might try to show you how that difference looks like, so you can very fast, very quickly realize when you have a game that has the black level race. You understand why is that race and what you need to do. And on the consoles, you can open a video maybe using the internal apps of the consoles. I think they do have YouTube and other apps like the TV has. I'm pretty sure they do. So you might be able to open some near black test patterns there, and maybe it's going to look the same as the games, but I'm not sure. So I don't have a console to test, man, but I hope that with my videos, with my explanation, you can understand what's going on, because it's not difficult. It's not difficult. The only thing you need to make sure is that you are doing the best tone mapping so you can get that maximum peak brightness, and you make sure that you don't have black level race so the colors don't look washed out. That's it. And of course, forget about perfect accuracy, because you're not going to get that. Okay, especially when the games are messed up. And of course, when you're doing auto HDR, there's no accuracy. The game is on SDR and you're trying to push more brightness. You're trying to make that look like real HDR, and it is not. But it looks better, so who cares if it's accurate or not? It looks way better. So the other thing that I want to comment on is HLG. I have that video who everyone watched, and I was very excited when I discovered HLG, but you have to understand, and at that point I didn't know how to fix the HDR. I didn't know how to fix it. So we have most games with the HDR broken. So once I discovered HLG, I was like, man, finally I can get great results every single time. But you see that with forcing HLG over SDR, the colors get wild, especially the reds, they get wild. And that's still okay. I can still play like that many games. It's not a big deal. Maybe if you play a colorful game like, I don't know, Genshin Impact or a Switch game, it's gonna be too much. The colors are going to be really wild. So yeah, maybe in that case it's not the best. But I would recommend you to still, if that's the only option you have, use it over SDR. It looks better. The colors are wild, but it's gonna look better than SDR for sure. But if you can make the auto HDR of the consoles pop with the right settings, that's gonna be better, because the colors are not going to be as incorrect. Okay, so try to get a better HDR on the consoles. What I need to help you, you can ask me on the comments. What I need to be able to help you is information. Tell me how the game looks. What happens if you use Mastering Peak Max CLL 400? Do you see clipping? Can you notice clipping? What is the best tone mapping that you see working? It might be 500, it might be 700. Do you realize if the game is using, if auto HDR on the PS5 or the Xbox Series X, do you see that the auto HDR is supporting the system level calibration or not. Do the games look the same near black as SDR, or do they look washed out? So I need to know that information to give you a recommendation, because I don't have a console. And it doesn't make sense for me to get a console because I would need to buy the games 2 or 3 times. So I'm not doing that. The games are expensive enough. So it doesn't make any sense for me. The channel is still too small. I'm not making almost nothing. The amount of money I spend on the channel already is crazy. But yeah, I do it because I like it, and I like to help. So let me know if you have any questions.